Okay. It's a little, how shall we say, behind. But possible. Then maybe. Hi, just testing over here. If you're joining my live stream, just a little test. Testing, testing, testing. To see whether I can do this through Zoom. Oh, okay. Hi, Michelle. Dusty Duster. Let's see now, over on Facebook. Yay! It's working. I know. I'm just checking to see. Ian says it's working. Just checking to see. I do not see your face on Facebook yet, Michelle.
Okay. So you're live. It let me unmute finally.
Oh.
Are we live or are we in
like
the waiting
tester,
room live?
like, yes, people can see it on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, there's some kind of terrible
You can't look at, hi. You cannot look at the Facebook.
Right.
Or you have to mute your computer. Like, because if you talk into the Zoom and you're looking at the Facebook, you are going to hear what you say.
Oh, but now I can't hear you. Okay, hold on.
Right. So you can't be watching yourself on Facebook. I'm so sorry. I know you like to watch yourself on the Facebook.
It's not that, it's that I'm hearing it double.
Right. Because you're hearing me talk to you through Zoom, and
Yep.
then it's going to Facebook and you're hearing Facebook stream it.
Oh, so I shouldn't have Facebook open at all.
Right. Correct.
Oh, so I shouldn't have Facebook open at all. Okay.
Just close your Facebook tab.
Okay, I'm scared. But I will put it
And
up
now
on my
you can
phone.
Yeah, you can
watch the comments. Okay.
Yeah, you can do it that way.
What? Okay.
Or
Yes.
when you did it, did you connect it through a stream key?
No.
Okay. That's another way to do it. So for future reference, this is what a handy dandy Be Live or eCam
Yes.
helps you with.
Yes.
Although it is a learning, like it takes more than 20 minutes to set up because you have to purchase it and then you have to API it. I think this is an excellent example of all of your strengths coming together in a moment.
Adaptability is like, okay.
And all of the way your brain works.
Oh, all the thing.
You have a new chair and it's pink.
I do. I got myself a little gamer chair.
I was thinking about getting myself a pink gamer chair too, but I'm afraid it's not wide enough for my ample bosom and my ample hips.
There were several sizes available. Just FYI.
Okay, so what do you want to do now?
Well, now that we know how to do it.
Early.
Yeah, this is way early. Well, 20 minutes. Now that we know how to do it, let's stop.
Hold on. I want to just make sure. Early. Yeah, I see us.
Yeah, we're on here. We're good. Or maybe what we should do is just like pause it because we know it's working.
Mm-hmm.
and then just come back at 2.
Yep. And I will. Oh, Ian is here. It's saying Facebook works. So that's a good idea. And I'll pull the live stream up in about 20 minutes as well. Yeah. And then we will both hopefully be able to pay attention to each other and the comments at the same time. When 2 ADHD brains get together to do a live, this is the kind of shenanigans you get.
100%.
You get.
It's so much shenanigans. Also, wait, sorry, I need to do this. I have a friend who calls it, now we're just talking, it's good times. I have a friend who calls it, she's like neuro spicy and neuro bland.
Neuro spicy and neuro bland.
So if you're a neuro,
I'm like neuro extra spicy.
Extra spicy.
I'm like, wait, do you know, isn't there like some YouTube show where they eat the wings? And it's like the wings get hotter and hotter and hotter. They kind of referenced it and parodied it in this fantastic HBO show, or I think it's Apple TV show called Loot. By the way, all of you listening, if you have not watched Loot, you must simply binge Loot. Okay. Because like Maya Rudolph and supporting cast. Yes, Maya Rudolph and supporting cast is just
gotcha.
And it's just such a well-written show. And you get to see fancy things.
Oh, there we go. Comments on. Okay.
Also, I want every person watching who cares about makeup to be hell of impressed with my ability to be make-upping myself without looking, with a mascara wand in your face.
That is incredibly impressive. You know what? We're just going to do a little talk show before. And anyone who comes is going to be like, oh, hi.
So my son has started listening to Brooke and Jeffrey in the morning. I have no idea what kind of brain garbage is happening there. But it is very interesting because I remember being a young person who only had a radio available unto her and sneaking radio shows as well and learning all sorts of things about like sex and dating and people.
Ruth Westheimer.
And
that's who I listen to.
Yeah, and so I'm having interesting feelings because I like can kind of hear what Brooke and Jeffrey are doing, and some of it is like super crass and super like, I don't want my child hearing that. But then I remember at this very, very age, I was like 106.1 KMEL. Are you a Bay Area person? You will know exactly what I'm talking about if you are. And they're trashy television talk show or radio talk shows. And I think I want to do that now. Like, I think I want to have a trashy radio show.
Oh, I see where this is going.
So, again, ADHD brain. No.
I don't think I've ever not wanted to have a television show, like a talk show in my life. I have always wanted to have one.
So you might know that I've been kicking around the idea of starting a podcast.
I do know this. I do.
But the podcast, interestingly enough, I'm going against all social knowledge or all those things that you do when you do things because you're intentional. Basically, I'm doing it against everything that I teach. And I'm thinking about it because I just want a place to kind of show up and shoot the shit with my friends about big important topics. Yeah. And the intersection of the human voice and these big important topics. And it's so funny because they're always like, okay, well, what are you going to sell out of it? Like, why are you doing it? Like, what's
you're like, because I want to talk to people.
Right.
About stuff.
And so now it becomes like, okay, at some point, the problem with this is when you present something and people I mean, I'm assuming people will enjoy it, toss. That they will want you to sell something, right? Like they'll want something else from you. They will want to talk to you about something. Something will kind of trigger a conversation or an ask, and that's great. And I'm trying to think, what kind of product / service does one offer around just shooting the shit? Like, could I actually make an appointment called Shoot the Shit? Because it's going to be like, you can't say shoot the shit on the podcast. I already have a name for it because it's an extension of the Facebook, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll probably do Speaking Easy with Michelle on voice and other things. Waves hands generally. So
all this.
Yeah. So if you happen to be watching or listening to this on the flip side, and you are a full service podcast producer, and when I say full service, I mean like all I have to do is show up and shoot the shit, and then you write my show notes, you do my editing, you make sure it's on all the right fancy platforms, you call Apple for me, you do some light admin around scheduling and making sure people know where the hell to show up. If you do a full service podcast situation and you would like to make a significant amount of money in 2023 from me, I would like to have a meeting with you to discuss the potential of you being able to survive working with Michelle Markwart Deveaux.
With spicy brain over here.
Spicy, extra hot wing brain. And I'm dead serious. So if anyone here is like listening and you have a friend who does full service podcast from top to bottom, I don't often check my Facebook messages, but for the next week, I'll actually look at them maybe once every day or every other day. And please let me know.
Yes.
I don't want to be doing no editing on my own. Like, I understand, like, podcasting is supposed to be that thing where you're like, it's so entry, like, you can do it yourself. And I got to tell you, I'm so beyond DIY. My brain cannot DIY any more things. I mean, I literally was, I'm like, I'm ready to hire someone to brush my teeth.
Yeah. If you, yeah, that's what the queen has.
Well, not anymore because she's dead.
I know.
Too soon?
Maybe. I don't know.
It's an interesting conversation that I don't think has to do anything with, well, it might have something to do with pricing, but it is an interesting conversation. Mm-hmm. I think by the way, you should tell people, skip to minutes 20 million if you want like the real stuff, but if you just want to hang out with, if you just want to watch Michelle
on the replay,
if you want to see what it's like to be in a coaching session with Shannon and Michelle,
it's good times. No, yeah, we'll say that on the replay, although there are people watching. I mean, if you're out there and you're like, yeah, actually, you know what, Shannon, more of this content, let me know, because Michelle and I can get in here and talk any old time.
Anything.
Just do this.
So to your point,
yeah,
my grandma had a saying,
yeah,
which my mother has, passed down the saying, and then now I have it, and that is, small minds talk about people, medium minds talk about places, and great minds discuss ideas.
Okay.
And while that's kind of like a lie, it is nice and quippy. And I think that whenever you get two or more people in a room who think beyond the surface,
yeah,
who don't think necessarily out of reaction, but out of responsiveness, yep. I love these conversations. And I hope that, I mean, we're going to have one about pricing in about 8 minutes.
Totally.
And
Marita's like, I mean, I'm loving it.
Hi, Marita. How are you? So this is interesting. I don't see the comments yet. Oh, here we go. Yep, I see it.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think with social media, it's funny because I put this on social media yesterday, was like, Michelle, just remember, social media is not for relators. Social media is not for relators. Relator, the Clifton strength. And it is interesting because I think we lose these wonderful opportunities to let conversation blossom.
Right.
When we're not just showing up to shoot the shit. I think they're, my favorite with Amy Brown, and I'm looking for the book because I thought I had it on my bookshelf, but ADHD brain probably put it somewhere else.
It's a book? Sorry,
I'm looking for the book that I want to read the quote out of, and I'm looking at my bookshelf and I don't see the book, and I had used it when we were talking about Secco Live the other day.
So it's got to be somewhere in there.
It's somewhere in my life. But where? But
somewhere in there.
This is the kind of stuff that I love to show people. It's like, hey, guess what? Everybody's a real person that also cannot find their book. I found
it! Yay!
I misspoke. Adrienne Murray Brown.
Oh, okay. What's it called?
This book is called Emergent Strategy. It's a little bit old, a couple years.
Okay.
It's one of those books that you read, and the first time you read it, you're like, okay, like I'm down, I think.
Okay.
I don't understand it, but I'm down.
Okay.
And then you read it some more, and then you're like, oh. And then when you start to experience it in real life, you can reference what you've read. Like your brain goes, oh, that is what that meant.
Interesting.
Like you have to kind of be doing it.
Yep.
Which is also kind of the point of emergent strategy. And if you are a fan of Octavia Butler and like human relationship and all of this kind of wonderful stuff, then you'll be a fan of this. But there are rules to emergent strategy, right? Like rules, core principles, if you will. And my favorite core principle is there is a conversation in the room that only these people at this moment can have. Find it. And that's why I will never give up some level of service-based business.
That's super interesting. Well, that's kind of like what we're doing, right?
That's
just
what I'm saying.
Right now. Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And that's my point is social media doesn't really give us the opportunity to find it. It's just like, here it is. Take it or leave it. It's
well, everybody throws it out there and then runs away, right? So like I throw out the thing and then I run away, or I do a live office hours where I just talk. Yeah. And the conversation is pretty, scripted. For me, it's not as scripted, but in these kinds of, conversations, they're often a little bit scripted. And the conversation is a little stilted because I'm having the conversation with comments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. My sister-in-law have an idea, and this is where this podcast thing comes from too, but I think it's good to have a topic like hey, we're going to talk about pricing. Hey, we're going to talk about what does it mean to shoot the shit? Hey, we're going to talk about but what would happen if we gave the space to cultivate the conversation? And then what would happen if people who engaged on social media, so the people watching the Facebook Lives, and myself included, right? Like you hear a pause in a conversation in a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live and you click off.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't even give ourselves the room for this space. So.
Yeah, it's true.
And pricing.
And pricing.
And pricing.
Well, you know what? I will, like, we're 4 minutes out. We've been doing this for like 11 minutes. Oh, no, 23 minutes. So I'll just keep that in the back of my mind. Skip over a little bit. But let me do a little tiny intro. I mean,
Yeah.
we're 2 minutes, 3 minutes out. Just a little intro, which is just, hey, it's Shannon Coates here with my friend Michelle Markwart Deveaux for live office hours at a special time because Michelle is 3 hours behind me. So rather than in terms of time, so rather than doing it at noon, which was not as great for her, we're doing it at 2 today. And I just wanted to say I think it's particularly important today. I want to do a land acknowledgement. I always do, but I want to make sure it's particularly important today that I do a land acknowledgement, just as I'm sure you have seen or heard. Queen Elizabeth II passed away yesterday. And lots of folks throughout the world mourning, and rightly so. And also, just there's a complicated legacy there as well in terms of what she represents and what the monarchy represents, and England. I was reading something somewhere. There are, I can't remember the number now, like only 20 or maybe 15 or something countries in the world that England has not invaded. Whoa.
Really? Like ever, like in the history of the British Empire?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like it's a really low number, so it's complicated, and there's a lot going on right now, sort of Irish Twitter, Black Twitter. There's a lot of folks just not, just talking about the harm that has been caused. So having said all of that, let me just say that I am coming to you live from north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada, and I live and work on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Wendat-Wendat peoples, who are the first and continuing caretakers of the land. And so I wanted to just make that explicit, and also especially now. So
Yeah.
there are a few resources that I wanted to maybe bring in today, that I had in the back of my mind to bring in today, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that today, and then there are some resources that I'll bring in next time.
Yeah.
Next
So I
level
can
resource.
also acknowledge the land I'm on, which is
That would be wonderful.
Nisinan.
Which is, sorry?
Miwok and Nisinan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So thank you.
Cool. Yeah. I do not know these names.
Well, all of North America has.
Yeah, of course.
Why are we here?
Yeah.
Full circle.
100%. 100%.
Colonization.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we acknowledge the land here in Sacramento County, which is Miwok and Nisinan.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, Christy says, "Oof, that's a crazy fact." Yeah, Christy, the number I can't remember the exact
Christy,
number, but it is something. Yeah, intense. It is pretty intense. So there's a lot of
both and today.
this is a big
Lots of
both and.
cognitive dissonance today.
A big both and. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, as I said, well, when we were doing some stuff within the speakeasy as well, as I said there, I think there is I think that as a Canadian of British descent, it is incumbent upon me to recognize how easy it is for me to be able to say she had a great life, and this institution is so fundamental to our, to who we are, and that is easy for me to say because I come from colonizers, right? So it's very easy for me to say I live with the happy privilege of being part of that tradition. So it's very easy for me to, and it's easy for people of my color and my heritage, and to be able to say, yeah, she was great. It was, and she was in so many ways. And there was she brought stability in so many ways. And absolutely, there are many, many things. And also, it's easy for me to say that because of who I am. So I think
Yeah.
it's important to recognize that as well. All right. We're talking today, though, about pricing.
Which kind of, I mean,
Which-
it's all entangled in that.
It all is. It absolutely is. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to have you in to have this conversation, Michelle, is that, you know, I know you get lots of DMs. I know you get lots of absolutely all the time because you're well known for this. And then I also, you know, people ask all the time, you know, the most recent person who asked is someone who's transitioning out of a performance career or out of a performance, you know, focused career, if you will,
Yeah.
into more of a teaching focused career. And so they reached out just saying like, how should I be pricing? And everybody wants to do the best, right? By their students and by who they're working with. And just want to have this, you know, I just want to do the right thing. I don't want to overcharge. I don't want to undercharge. I don't want to, you know, make the other people, you know, I don't want to undercut people, but I also don't want to like, you know, I don't want to be the most expensive person in the, you know, blah, blah, blah. So like, those are all the fears that, you know, people have, as you know. And also, we also, as you and I have talked about before, especially I know when I started, the models I had were the models from the teachers I worked with in high school, right? So those folks, and also then my, you know, my academic teachers and how they charged and how they ran their studios. So those are the only models I had, and that's going back a little ways too now. So, and also on top of that, I started teaching as like a side hustle, as so many of us do. I started teaching as like it wasn't, I did not come into it as with a business mind. I did not come into things. So I was like, well, I guess like my teacher is charging this much, so I should charge half. I don't know. Or, you know, I was teaching I started teaching at a music school. And so when I came when I left the music school and came into my independent studio, I was like, okay, well now I should charge what they charged, right? Like before I was only making half of it because I was working for them, and now I should just charge what they charge, and that's what I should do. So I didn't have any models, we don't have like big entrepreneurial family, although we actually do, except that they don't think they are. But anyway, it's fine. So yes, that's a big blather there, just to get us going, which is, how do you answer the question? What should I charge? And with the huge caveat that we're going to talk for like maybe 45 minutes, right? Like maybe an hour, if you're okay with that. 45 minutes? I don't know.
No, I was like, oh, I thought this was like a 3-hour seminar because it's going to take at least
exactly. That's the caveat, is that there's absolutely no way to give all of the answers in this time.
Yeah. Okay.
But give us a start. Start us off.
Yeah. So I do speak on this a lot.
Yes.
And teach on this a lot. So when someone says, what do I charge? I give the beautiful answer, it depends.
Yes.
And then they get mad at me. And I ask a lot of questions. And ultimately what it comes down to is we have data and we have love.
Oh.
And when you mix data and love, you can come up with your pricing for generosity. That's just like a little silly name I put on it. So, you know, TM.
Not silly. It's one of my favorite things.
Uncle.
Yeah.
And this idea and concept of pricing, I think people there's lots of layers to it. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I go through a 6-step process with every person individually. The first step is always data. Mm-hmm. And data is the objective, numerical, money thing. Mm-hmm. So this is creating a money plan based on how much you want to give in the world, how much you want to save, how much you want to spend, mm-hmm. and that will lead you to how much you need to earn. Mm-hmm. I got this give, save, spend, earn model, like the language for it, from my friend and amazing financial coach and money expert, Jackette Timmons. So I want to give acknowledgement there. I had different language for it, but hers is like infinitely better than mine. So I'm like, oh, I am going to say that instead and then acknowledge her. But ultimately, we have to have a money plan, also known as a budget, but people don't like that word. So a money plan before we can even think about pricing at all. Now, what happens with that is kind of the first major hurdle,
Right.
Because as soon as you start discussing how much money you want and need, you are going to come up against a lot of those feelings that you just described. Totally. There's a lot of money stories. Some people, I would go so far as to say there is money trauma. Not everybody has money trauma, but everybody does have money stories that affect how what they believe about money. And you are going to have to work through, as you are building your money plan, with objective numbers. Objective meaning, how much is my Secco membership every month, and how much is my, paying for MMS or Acuity, and how much it, like, hard costs. Those are called hard costs, expenses. And then how do I translate that into a billable hour?
Right.
And then how do I deal with all of my own feelings that come up when I see that billable hour might be a number that I personally am extremely uncomfortable with because of my own relationship with money. So that's the very first largest summit. It's a mountain range, right? Like pricing journey is a mountain range. And my brother just ran a 100-mile race, the Angel's Crest. It's a freaking doozy. And in the first leg, which is like a marathon, it's basically like straight up this mountain. And so your hardest leg of this first race is going to be this data. Because when we also gather data, we are forced to look at the choices we've made around money. And the choices, the way we've managed our decisions around money. But that's really the first thing. So,
which is one of the things that I love about this, let me say, is that this plan is, once you get through it, once you sort of start to do the, you start to do the work, you see where it takes you. And you get into it and you go like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but this is going to give me real numbers and real reasons to charge what I'm charging, right? Like, it's going to give me a real reason. And the reason is that I want to be able to be generous in these areas. Like, I want to be able to give in these areas. I need to earn this much so I can pay for my kids' braces and or buy a house, whatever. And I also, want to have this much saved in order for XYZ, right? So it gives you real reasons to charge what you charge, because, well, the way that I came in, and so many of my colleagues and so many people that I know you've talked to as well, so many people I've talked to, is what is like the market price? What's the market value? What should I need to do market research. I need to look at other people's websites and see what they're charging. I need to look and see, I need to be fair in the market, right? So this gives you that objective, like, this isn't wishy-washy feeling, I should be charging blah, blah, blah because of some airy-fairy thing. This is like objective. No, there are real reasons. And you get to say what you want. Which is not, like, that's not really something that was in my vocabulary lots, right? I actually want to give some money away. I want to be generous. I want to have some nice things. So I get to say what I want, and I get to make the money that I want to make.
Yes, 100%. And, I think, I talk about these 5 myths of pricing. And, you know, the first myth is just pulling a number out of the air. Right? Like, okay, I'll just like kind of what you said about, well, I'll kind of like make an educated guess based on what I think people might pay me.
Exactly.
The second myth is like you mentioned, I'll charge what my teacher charged or charges, or less because I'm not
they're the
as
teacher.
good as them. Nonsense.
Yep.
Ask around and charge market.
Yep.
Which is a very foolish idea, by the way, friends, because, hey, babes, Liz Jackson Huns is here. It's a very foolish thing to set your prices based on an industry that does not know how to set prices as a general rule. So it's kind of like asking your dentist to be your plumber. Right? Like, I'm a plumber. I'm a dentist, so I'm going to ask my plumber how much to charge. Right? I mean, that's not really a good analogy, but you get where I'm going with this. Yep. The point is that historically there is so much systemic money trauma in the arts that if you ask another voice teacher what they're charging, you are more likely to get a feelings-based answer than you are to get a data-driven answer that will actually help you build your business.
Yeah.
Service-based businesses do this all the time too, right? Because let's just call it like it is. In service-based business, a lot of people go into services based on their desire to help people, and they conflate helping and money. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not saying that we can't help. Of course we can help people with money, but when you're setting your prices. So market, I don't look at until the very, very, very end. And it's not because I care what other people are charging. It's because we have to understand, is this billable hour that we've come up with in line with all these other factors that we need to look at for your pricing? And if it is not, how does that, once we get to market, where do you sit in the market? Because if you come up with a billable hour and you find out that your billable hour is like $30 less than everybody else in the market because you have different financial goals and needs, you can't do that. Yeah. You have to, like, you can't undercut anyone. That's not nice. So, you know, go back, you got to do something else. Or if you find that it's $100 more than everybody else in the market, then you need to go back and have a real, you know, come to yourself, come to Jesus talk and figure out, what are you providing? What value can you provide that justifies that rate in the market? Not you need to justify yourself. This is, how does this offer, how does this thing I'm selling justify itself in the market? Yeah. And I think this goes to that ultimate question of, or this ultimate connection that people make with my price is me. Yeah. Yeah. Which I have very strong feelings about people using charge what you're worth, as you well know. Like, I just think that is a myth and a lie. And I have reasons why, if you want to go into that.
Well, let me make sure. So I got 3 myths. I've got number out of the air, charge what my teacher charges, charge what the market is. Did you say there were 5?
Oh, yeah. The 4th one is just charge hella money and convince people through high pressure sales tactics to pay you money. Yeah. So this goes around. This is actually, once COVID hit and we were all online marketing tactics started to, online business marketing tactics started to awash our industry. I see so many people now, like, I'll teach you how to do an online course, and I'll teach you how to do a high ticket program, and I'll teach you and I'm like, okay. And time after time after time, when I have conversations with people who have gone through those programs or have worked with those things, time after time, they are not the people doing the program. I personally feel are not doing due diligence around the vetting of the client they are allowing to pay them to create that product. Right. And then what happens is the coaching becomes teaching people how to do high pressure sales.
Right.
Rather than teaching people how to create a high ticket program. There's a difference between creating VPUD,
right,
high ticket program,
yeah,
and teaching you how to do high pressure sales,
right.
Teacher who's only been teaching for 2 years, trying to get people into something that you don't have the confidence, the skill set, the knowledge base,
right.
and the brand capital to sell.
Yeah.
And I really hate that. So that's the fourth myth, is you can charge whatever you want. It's fine. Like, I think
just do good sales.
Yeah. You know, I know that I have a reputation for always talking about pricing and money. I know it. I mean, whatever, fine. But the thing is, this is like, do not charge money for something you do not know how to do.
Right.
However, what you do know how to do extremely well and charge top dollar for it. Mm-hmm. Whether you know how to do one thing or you know how to do 17 things. Mm-hmm. Over time, you will get to be very good at very many things. And then you can charge even more money for those very many things based on your value proposition in the market, which is one of the other things we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
But don't, please, if someone is trying to teach you if you are in a program and you are getting those weird feelings around, you can charge, like if someone's telling you can charge whatever you want, but they're trying to get you to be high pressure sales.
Yeah.
Trust your discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fifth myth is just charge what you're worth.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Don't charge what
you're worth. Yeah. Yep. Well, and again, coming to it from what do I want to give? What do I want to earn? What do I want to save?
Mm-hmm.
That
spend. Give, save, spend equals
give,
earn.
Save, spend. Sorry, yeah, equals earn. Coming to it with that means that you take that like, well, what am I worth out of it? You just take that right out of it, right? And yeah, there's a lot in that one too.
Can I really quickly unpack this? Don't
Yes.
charge what you're worth.
Yes.
So I have some reasons why, and I want to share. I no longer say charge what you're worth or charge what, and I used to do that. I used to fall into that trap of being like, people need to charge what they're worth. And then I thought about it and I was like, that's actually bullshit. And here's why. The idea of charging what you're worth connects your personal value and merit to a financial position in your mind. It connects it to your business and therefore your identity, and money is not your identity. Here's how you can tell that you connect money with identity. If you judge rich people or you judge poor people, you connect money to identity. If you hate the wealthy or you hate homelessness, you connect money to identity, and that's some unpacking that you need to do.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, then what you are inherently telling yourself at all times is if someone else charges more, they're better than you.
Yeah.
And if someone charges less, they are not as good as you. And that is none of your damn business, because you don't know that person's business model. You don't know what their revenue streams are. You don't know anything about that person. It's silly. Secondly, if your personal worth is connected to price points in one business, and then you change businesses and have a different price point, does that mean that your self-worth fluctuates?
Yeah.
So what if my business, like for example, my business right now has several different revenue streams, several different prices. Yeah. So which one do I pick? Am I worth my high ticket, or am I worth my very entry level Secco price?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right? What if you go from a low volume model, one-on-one teaching, and then you decide to open a multi-teacher studio? Yeah. You're not going to charge the same thing because you're dealing with different volume, right?
So does that mean your worth changed overnight? No, it does not.
No. So third, if an individual's worth is recognized as a viable substitute for means of exchange, that's not a thing. While I wish that I could pay my bills with my amazing fabulousity, the electric company is not taking my badassery as payment for.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. Or my doctorate.
I mean, you can't just be showing the paper and being like,
like they're not. Look.
Oh,
look.
I swear.
Look. Pay. I don't. Yes. So that's got to be worth at least $50 a month in electricity.
I mean, come on. Fourth, and the times that you struggle with low self-image, does that mean you go on your website and change your pricing?
Right.
And in the times that you're having like a super great day and you're feeling super confident about yourself, does that mean you're like, I'm sorry, today your voice lesson is $7,000?
Because my worth changed.
Yeah.
Totally.
And lastly, just kind of bringing it around to what we were speaking about in our pre-show conversation.
Yep.
Is humans should not have monetary worth.
Yeah.
And we live in a culture in this we live in a broken world. We live in a broken world where bodies have monetary worth. We see this manifested in slavery. We see it manifested in sex trafficking. We see this manifested in, I learned from someone on my Facebook page that we see this in the adoption industry.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I don't have information about that one specifically. I do about human trafficking. And I just think, why, if we are savvy and intentional business people, why would we want to connect an idea and make mockery of people who are in grave danger and have, by connecting our worth with money? Because it's not good for many people to have their bodies connected with a price point. So those are the reasons I don't say that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I think, I mean, that is one of those sayings, if you will, that, or one of those concepts that until we kind of unpack it a little bit, it seems right. Like, it seems like, well, yeah, of course I should charge, right? Like, it seems right until we kind of unpack it.
And then,
yeah, it's one of those things that seems right.
It sounds good until you start thinking about it.
And somebody told me it was good, so of course. And then when you unpack it, you realize, oh yeah, that doesn't actually align with what I believe about myself, about other people, about like, that does not actually align with my worldview at all. This is not my values in any way, shape, or form. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to your point earlier about the reason why we start with data. We start with data because it is objective.
Yeah.
So what this budget money plan will do, which is this first step of money for pricing for generosity, is it gives you a real number. So what does that actually mean in very short terms? It means that you figure out how much money you need to pay yourself as a owner's draw or salary, depending on what your entity is for taxes. And you do that based on your personal budget, right? Like groceries and a new car and, you know, what you pay for eating out and utilities of your home and your mortgage. That's like what you need to cover over here. And then your business has its own money plan. Yeah. This is very important. I know with sole proprietorships, everybody likes to put it all in one bucket and then figure it out at the end of the year. It works, which is why people do it, but it makes it very difficult to make intentional decisions about growing your money if it's all in one bucket. So we need to know how much is life going to cost, and we need to know how much is running your business going to cost. And there's a lot that people don't actually put in to running their business. They don't think, about, oh, this is something I pay for when I run my business. Do you need travel funds for going to conferences? Do you need conference funds for paying for the actual retreat or conference? Do you need what kind of continuing education are you building into your business and model? What kind of softwares do you want to use in the future? Because I know there's a question about bookkeeping coming up. What are the things other than like sheet music and your piano or your microphone that go into this? And then on the life side, asking yourself, how do I want to fund my retirement? How do I want to pay for health insurance or do that? This will often require a sit down conversation with your partner. If you are in a partnered relationship and you don't have just your own money, and you're sharing space and life, you have to have that conversation. What does my business need to generate to put into the family bucket or the partnership bucket? Which mean, I would also recommend Jacquette Timmons' book, which I can't remember the name of right now, but it's about partnered money conversations. So, we start there. That will cover everything. If you really think about what you want and need. How much are you going to spend on vacations every year? How much are you going to spend on your eyebrows? How much are you going to spend on Starbucks? Or what is it? Tim Hortons.
Oh.
I don't know the equivalent. Second cup. Okay.
Is a good equivalent.
Okay.
Or just your local roastery.
Those are the things that you need to think about that you want so that you don't accidentally not account for them so that you charge appropriately. If you do this with great care, you don't have to worry about a lot of things. Right? Then you take that information, we'll do a formula with it later.
Sure.
Before we do a formula to figure out the actual price, you got to ask some other questions. So you need to ask, does your price communicate your brand?
Right.
You need to ask, how are you different than people with similar businesses? And this is internal facing language. Like what makes me unique in terms of how I present what I know, how I engage students, or singers, how I engage my colleagues, what are my strengths? I can give you notes on this, by the way, Shannon.
Okay, give me some notes.
I'm like, oh, you're writing a lot.
I totally am.
I have all of this written down.
Amazing.
What is your service model? Like, what's your business model? Are you only doing one-on-one? Are you going to add some groups in there? Do you have a multi-teacher studio? Like, you have to understand your business model. Because a one-on-one service will always be the most expensive thing that you sell because you can't not, because it's limited resource time that you are selling. And I get, like, I talk about like, don't sell your time. We're trying to get away from selling time. Right. But time is the tool and it's the unit. You cannot change that unless you are Hermione and have a time turner. Right. Then we ask, what is the business's unique value proposition, which is how are you different? What is the promise you make, but it's client facing language. Right. And then last, what's your market? Are you local? Are you worldwide? Is it just voice? People looking for voice? Is it voice and piano? Are you coaching in addition to, and when I say coaching, I mean like life coaching or health coaching in addition to voice teaching? Are you doing teacher trainings? Like what is your actual market? And we only look at that market again to determine where we fit in it when we figure out all those other things.
Yeah.
So, for example, you don't want to be a very fancy person and not charging an appropriate rate.
Right.
And you also don't want to be right out the gate and charging something that, and I mean this, above your billable hour. You need to charge a billable hour no matter what. But something that is not in alignment with your brand capital. If nobody knows who you are and you're like, I charge $700 an hour, then you're going to have a lot of work to do in the sales I mean, you can do that, but you're going to have a lot of work to do in the sales process. And if you're brand new, you probably don't know how to do that. So it's just going to be hard. Like, you're allowed to charge whatever you want. I don't care what you charge. You just got to know what you're like getting into with your price point.
I just want to pull that out. I love that you say that you're framing this as you can't charge well, you can, but it's going to be really challenging if you're charging above what your brand capital is. Because it's not about like whether or not you're a good or bad teacher.
Not at all.
It's not about whether you are an experienced or inexperienced. Like, it's not about any of those things. It's not about what your education is. It's not about any of those things. It's about what is your brand capital. And so then that tells you how challenging it's going to be to, you know, if you're charging lots, fine. But then if you don't have that brand capital, it's going to be really challenging.
Yeah. And then then you have to go, then you have to ask yourself, how patient are you?
Yeah.
Because if you're impatient, then guess where you're going to go? High pressure sales tactics.
Yeah.
Right. So bro marketing, which by the way is not about men specifically. Please, if you think bro marketing is about dudes, I mean, dudes do it, but so do women. BRO stands for boiler room operations. It is a term that was coined by DeMarco. I don't remember and he's kind of a douche too, but just in terms of his kind of like whatever he is, but that term is directly taken from like Wolf of Wall Street type stuff. So we're doing boiler room operation, high pressure sales tactics. That's what bro marketing is. And yes, it is true that all genders participate in this. Yeah.
And I just realized that Liz, like, basically at the same time as I was saying, I love that you're talking about, she was also like, I love that you're talking about brand capital. I know.
And Christy's saying, also loving the language brand capital. Just for clarity, I think it would be so great if either one of you could throw at us your best or favorite definition of brand capital. Yeah, sure. I would love it. Great. I love that question. Thank you so much for asking it. So brand capital is like, how fancy does everybody think you are?
Yeah.
That's like the most, let's just call it like it is, definition.
And like, how do people
even know who you are
and what you offer, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so
do
capital,
they? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Like, do they have an understanding? Is there a general understanding of what you're offering? And it isn't necessarily about whether or not, you have a degree or a pedigree or whatever. It's about like, what are you offering? And do people know what it is?
Right. And when I say fancy, let me be clear. Yeah. When I say fancy, I don't necessarily mean Shannon's doctorate. I mean in the perception of the mind of the buyer. Yeah. How trustworthy are you? How well known are you? Yep. What are the results you bring with what you do? How many people know about those results? What is your social proof? And I don't just mean social proof like social media. I mean like word of mouth, like what's your reputation in terms of the service and offer you provide. And then what containers, like what are your actual offers? Like, oh, Michelle has the Speakeasy Cooperative and she has the VIP and she has how to run your voice, right? Yeah. And capital, remember that capital in business terms, financially, the word capital is like some extra that you have that you can invest back into the business, right? So it's money that you use to grow. Money that you use to grow a business is business capital, right? In very loose terms. So brand capital is, what is this brand, this perception of who you are, which is fluid, by the way, and flowing, and it ebbs. It's not a logo. It's not colors. It's not typefaces. It's the stories that you're telling, the expectations people have of you and your brand. I hope this is being helpful, Karen and Christy, because I'm being verbose about it, but I want to make sure you really get it.
Totally.
And you really like latch onto it and then can like swim in it for a little bit, you know? And that brand capital is like that investment of all of that. Some people call it KLT or know, like, trust. That investment of your business's reputation that you can then make an ask. You can sell a thing and people will say, I will buy that because I don't think you are going to scam me. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Liz Jackson Hearn says, I think of capital as a resource that you can cash in to build the next awesome thing.
So we do this all social capital.
Yep.
Right? Have we heard this before? Like social capital. It's like, oh, I got to call in a favor to a friend. Like, oh, I have enough social capital with this person that I can ask for a favor. Right?
And spend it.
And then spend it. And then they can ask me the same. They can do the same. Right?
Yeah.
So thanks for that. That's great, Liz. I love that. Cash in. So yeah, your brand capital. And again, this is why I really am like, I don't care what you charge as long as it's not undercutting the market.
Right.
I don't believe that people do. I believe unethics, like ethics comes in once you start looking at all of these other things and then you start looking at the motive of the company. So there's a difference between making a profit and making a gross profit, like a disgusting, not gross, like, because that is technically gross is a accounting term, and making a disgusting amount of profit based on one individual's greed.
Right.
You know, that's different than starting a business, turning a profit, living the life that you want to live, living your best rich life, and, you know, oligarchy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yes. I want to take this moment in this little pause that we have here to just acknowledge that lots of people love Tim Hortons, and there's a reason that it's fabulous and it's Canadian, and there are lots and lots of people who love it. I personally do not love it.
I don't really actually know
anything.
Please
don't kick me out of Canada. Okay, bye-bye.
What would that be like? What's the United States equivalent of that? Is that like I don't
coffee
like
time?
pie?
Maybe. Oh, maybe.
I don't like McDonald's.
Oh, maybe.
I don't like Starbucks. I don't know. I don't know the equivalent.
Yeah, it might be.
So, or is it like Dunkin' Donuts? Maybe.
I think it's a Dunkin' Donuts. I think the kind of equivalent is maybe Dunkin' Donuts in terms of like the kind, like
got it.
The food. I don't know.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Just needed to say that.
Yeah. So did we actually answer the question, what do I price? Yes and no. And this is why, back again, pulling it all back circle, why I say it depends. Yeah. There's lots of research we need to do. There's lots of thinking we need to do. There's lots of decision making we need to do. Now, before you get mad at me all about this, I just gently offer unto thee that you chose to start a business. I love you. I care about you. I want your business to be banging. And also, that choice comes with certain responsibilities that are different than one would have if they chose to become an employee.
Yeah.
One of the decisions that we make, whether we know it or not, when we become a business owner, even if it's a side hustle is still a business. You still need to run it like a business. Is you have become chief decision maker. So you're going to spend a lot of time thinking and making decisions about your business. And you've become a marketer and a salesperson, especially if you're solo and it's just you don't have a team helping you with that. Those are things that you inherently say yes to when you choose to hang your shingle. Yeah. And I think, you know, I'm not trying, I really hope this doesn't come across like I'm trying to tell people to not start businesses. That is not what I'm doing. I would rather we go back to everybody has their own business, for many economic reasons, but I digress. But I think that sometimes we think it's the easy way out to just open a studio, because it is relatively easy to say, hey, I teach voice lessons, give me $50.
Yep.
And then do it. But if you do it that way, there will be a time where you will realize this isn't working anymore, and now I'm going to have to make the same decisions that I needed to make before. I'm going to have to do the same thinking that I had to do before, but now I'm doing it under pressure. Yeah. Because I have a client base, I have financial needs that I didn't realize I had. All these other things. So just something to consider. Bye, Karen.
And yes, this will be available afterwards. Yeah.
All the lives are always available after. Skip to minute like 25 though, because we just shot the shit for 25 minutes before we started talking pricing.
Yeah, we did.
There were some specific questions people had.
So there are two specific ones that are sort of a little bit more nitty gritty. One from a Canadian about charging HST. So HSTs are harmonized sales tax. So in Canada we have provincial level of taxation, and then an overall level of taxation for national for Canada. And each province is mixed between those two, has a different name, but in Ontario, HST. So here's the thing. So for Canada, music lessons are not taxable. So you do not have to charge tax on music lessons, and then you do not have to remit taxes so obviously if you're not charging them, you don't have to remit them. So no, the short answer is no, you do not need to charge taxes, even if you do already have an HST number, so you do not need to charge taxes. The longer answer is if you are doing anything outside of music lessons, if you make a certain amount of money, so if you make, I think the threshold is $35,000, I can't remember now, but it's something around there. So if you make $35,000, more than $35,000 doing something outside of music lessons. So say you have a choir, say you do a music theater camp, say you do, say you sell a teacher resource, right?
Like any of those degree.
Like the voice ped degree, for example. If you make more money than $35,000, those things you do have to charge HST on. So that's the caveat, is that if you're doing anything sort of beyond music lessons, it is a little sticky. I'll just say it's a little bit sticky because sometimes if you're doing audition coaching, yes, that falls into music lessons, but there is also there are a couple of little things that the government would like to see in music lessons. They would like you to see a progressing kind of like you're moving through something. They would love if you were doing the Royal Conservatory of Music. So there are some things that the government would love to see. However, unless you're making a bajillion dollars teaching music lessons, they're not going to come after you. Okay. So if it falls under that sort of general umbrella of music lessons, I mean, I think the government has called me probably 4 or 5 times now in my when I've been teaching, and all I have to say is, and they're like, why aren't you charging HST? And then I say, well, because I teach music lessons. And they're like, oh, okay, never mind, but it's fine. So that's the answer on that one. Even if you have an HST number, you do not have to charge HST.
But talk to your accountant.
But talk to an accountant who understands music lessons. Yeah. Because lots of them don't. So talk to someone who knows the rules on that.
Yeah. There is no sales tax for services in the United States. Unless, so here's where it gets sticky in the United States. Services generally no sales tax.
Right.
If you download where it gets sticky is state by state will have different rules around what's called the threshold, right? That turns you into a taxable entity when you are selling things like, and different rules have different about what you can sell. So like, for example, in California, I can sell the Art of the Inquiry ebook as a downloadable from my website without sales tax. In other states, I would have to sell it for sales tax. Then there's like you said, the threshold, like, am I making $500,000 a year in retail stuff in order to sell that? And then your accountant gets involved, and it's like all sorts of nonsense, which is why there are companies like Stripe and stuff who have like kind of these ancillary, softwares and SaaSes, software as a service products that like help you with sales tax and stuff. But that ultimately there's no sales tax on voice lessons in the United States.
Cool.
Except for always talk to your accountant. Always.
Except always do that. Just in case.
We are not that.
All the disclaimers. All the disclaimers. Yeah. And, as well, if you have a multi-teacher studio, like there are definitely other things that that can fall under the, where you need to charge taxes for, if you're selling books, if you're selling blah, blah, blah. But again, all that stuff. So that's awesome. The other question, which I think is a terrific question, is what kind of bookkeeping? I mean, this is like fundamentals, right? This is like the 101. What kind of bookkeeping software should I be using?
Oh, you're going to my favorite answer.
I know your answer. You go ahead.
Depends. More questions. So I want to know, how big is your business? I want to know how many revenue streams you have. I want to know if you actually understand bookkeeping and accounting. If you do not understand the fundamentals of bookkeeping, and not necessarily accounting, but general accounting principles, then you need to figure that out first before you do bookkeeping software.
Right.
Because any bookkeeping software
is confusing as heck if you don't know what you're doing.
I would say that even for something like MMS.
Yeah.
So you have to understand what bookkeeping is, what the point of it is, why it exists, how to look at a profit and loss statement, what impact bookkeeping has on your business. And this is another thing too, is that bookkeeping for your personal life is very, very, the function of bookkeeping in a business is different than just like checking in with your money plan for your personal life.
Right.
And so you need to understand what bookkeeping is first, please. Which we don't really have time to go into. But in SECO, we have done several trainings on basics of bookkeeping. That being said, once you get to a certain point, I highly recommend people hire bookkeepers, but not in lieu of generally knowing the basic principles of bookkeeping. I know that I need bookkeeping. Here are the general principles. I'm going to hire a bookkeeper / bookkeeper accountant, someone who does both. They're two different, very separate pieces or skill sets and jobs, in order to help teach me the basics of bookkeeping, so I understand what they are doing and I can make decisions around it. Because again, another hat you chose to wear as a business owner is also chief financial officer, which is decisions about money, right? So I think starting with, if you can do spreadsheets, I'm not talking about a fancy spreadsheet, I'm talking about math, like adding and subtracting formulas, sums, not like fancy math. If you can do a spreadsheet where you have an understanding of every expense that you have specifically, and then can categorize them under a category of what kind of expense it is, and then you have your income, and then at the bottom you see for that month what the difference is, and then like start with a spreadsheet, but please understand what bookkeeping does first. If you don't know what bookkeeping does and you're just like, well, what software should I use? That is foolish. That's not going to help you. Now, that being said, once you start to understand bookkeeping better, you're probably going to be attracted to something like QuickBooks.
Right.
which, by the way, if you don't understand bookkeeping, is going to make you want to stab your face. Nightmare, because you don't know the lingo, you don't know what you're looking at, you don't understand what's a chart of accounts, why do I have a ton of chart of accounts, I don't understand what's all the numbers, right? So you can do it on a piece of paper with a pencil. I do not care. All bookkeeping is categorizing expenses so that your accountant can then appropriately tell the government how much tax you owe. And that's pretty much every culture or every nation that we're talking to here. I know that MMS has kind of a very easy, quick and dirty version of
my music staff, by the way.
My music staff, sorry.
Which is a scheduling kind of payment gateway software.
It's trying to be an all-in-one. There's several all-in-ones, right? Like I think Duet has a new owner now, and I've spoken with her. She's a very wonderful woman. It's exciting to see what they're coming up with. I think that they're the old Studio Teacher's Helper, but it's a total rebuild of the software and everything. So that's something to consider. And then you have businesses maybe that are a little bit more robust, a little different. Again, you want a different brand behind your business. So you're doing kind of a tech stack, which incidentally, I will be talking about tech stacks at the winter workshop for Nats in Miami, Florida.
Cool.
I'm going to help people figure out how to decide on their softwares.
I like that.
So that's something to consider too. But at the end of the day, you want something that you can give access to your bookkeeper and your accountant and connect all of the things. The one thing I don't like about QuickBooks, which makes me sad in my soul, is that QuickBooks and Stripe do not have a native integration, which makes me happy for my freaking fantastic bookkeeper, because what she has to do is kind of itemize all of the Stripe stuff and then put it into QuickBooks. I am waiting for the day when Stripe and QuickBooks get married,
become friends,
API, and that will be great. But QuickBooks also has invoicing. They don't have papers. They're not a payment. They're not a scheduler, so to speak. But I mean, start out with pen and paper, learn what bookkeeping is and why it's important, then build into your, remember that whole money plan we were talking about that you start with? Just be like $300 a month bookkeeper, even if you don't have one right now, because you're going to need to put the accountant on there anyway, and you're going to have to put the bookkeeper on there anyway. Budget about $300 a month for it and just put it in there so that once you get to that place where you're charging what you need to charge, whether it's right out the gate or you're making that money, you don't have to ask where you're going to find the money. You already accounted for it.
And I'll say too, there is a list. I'm sure all governments have them, but I know in Canada, if you go to the Canada Revenue Agency site and look under sole proprietor, small business, or something along those lines, there is a list of expense categories, and then what goes in each expense category. So that is a quick and easy way to like just go in there and search for it. It is fairly intuitive, and it's a quick and easy way to set up your expense categories. It tells you subscription goes under here. Perfect. All of my professional services. So my accountant and my biz coach and my blah, blah, blah. Those all go under this one. Okay. So yeah.
In the United States, this is why accountants are fancy. This is where you get fancy math. This is why the mafia, right? So there can be fancy accounting and there can be simple accounting. The United States, one of the great things that living in the United States allows you to do is be fancy with your money. And so it's not as easy as just choosing, but there are general categories that any business owner has. And then your accountant will talk with you specifically about where they feel certain things should be categorized, because they're trying to help you not be audited or something like that. And then also in the United States, which I would be surprised if you could not do this in other Western nations, you can split expenses. So for example, I might pay $100 for, I'm trying to think of something that I could split. $100 for a banner, let's say, that I'm going to bring to like Seco Live or Nats or something. And I could put half of it in marketing, and I could put that half, like account for that half, $50 of it in my marketing expenses, and I could account, right, bookkeeping, for half of it in conference materials.
Yeah.
Or conference supplies. So you don't have to get fancy like that if you don't want to, of course. But I think sometimes people misunderstand the difference between like, this calculator has one expense, you know, it's like, no, that's why accounting is fancy, is because what it does is it allows you to tell the government how you're using what you buy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, the categories are a place to start is what I'm saying, right? Like they have just a general outline of the categories and what you are allowed to put in those categories and what doesn't go in those categories.
Yeah, don't be splitting stuff until you understand why you're splitting stuff. Let's just put it that way. Right?
Again, not accountants.
Not accountants.
Not.
But hey, you know, we play one on Facebook Live.
On Facebook Live. Let me ask you a couple of things before we wrap up. So let me just ask you, you have some products, offerings, services that
I do.
help people. So talk to me a little bit about all of the things.
Okay.
All the things you do and offer.
So let's talk about, let's go from top down.
Yeah, sure.
So,
I didn't tell her I was going to do this, by the way, in advance.
Oh, yeah. So
she's off her feet right now.
So top down, we have the Vipers, right? This is the VIP program. This is a high level mastermind. It's a conversation only. You can't just go buy it on the Facebook. And that is a group of business owners who are looking to either scale via volume or via changing their profit margins significantly, and who like and want to have a wide reach and wide influence. So sometimes that means they want to make a lot of money. Sometimes they're not really concerned about the money, but it's more about the reach. We're doing kind of more out there kind of things and creating bigger magic.
The
right?
VoicePed degree would not exist without this group is what I am
that
saying.
Is true.
It
that is true.
100% would not exist without this group.
So it's a think tank meets a mastermind, all of that. If you are a person out there who has giant goals and giant dreams, that can be something you put on your list of things you would like to work toward. Under that, in terms of not worth or anything, but kind of the level of people who are wanting to restructure their business or wanting to start it, hit the ground running, really understand what questions, again, how to be a good decision maker, how to be a business owner is the How to Run Your Biz Without Hating Your Boss program. That's a 10-month program. And I'm very proud of that program. We literally turn people into top-notch business owners. And it is one of my greatest joys to watch people go through that program and then answer questions with such poise and confidence and creativity in the Speakeasy Cooperative, which is...
Ooh, transition, man. That was good. Segue.
Right. Thank you. And I'm doing this on my feet.
Yeah, you are.
Which is the Speakeasy Cooperative. And that is the please come one, come all. It doesn't matter if you've been in business for 40 years or 40 minutes. We want you to come and have a brave space to talk about what it means to be in the arts, be a voice teacher, be someone who works with voice teachers, be anyone connected with voice, piano teachers, collaborative pianists, any of that, and how to do that growing and impactful business long term. And that is kind of everybody, whether if you're in How to Run and you're in VIP, everyone is in Speakeasy first and or actively a part of both. We also, by the way, have our MTS Tap Room, which is our multi-teacher studio program that we launched just this year. So if you own a multi-teacher studio, please contact me. We're in the middle of that right now, but that is led and cultivated. I got to oversee the cultivation of that, but our coaches for that are Liz Jackson Hearns, who you may see in the comments, and also Jen Blanton. Two very large success stories, I guess you would say, or examples of the kind of work that I did when I started, which is that like intense coaching one-on-one, and then to see them kind of come full circle and now be able to deliver a program for the company is, I mean, I get my eyeballs get wet. My eyeballs get wet. So that's pretty amazing. And then of course I've got a book for you. If you're like, who the hell is this woman and what is she all about? I wrote you a book, and that's about the inquiry process. So it's basically a book about sales, but not high pressure sales, and how to transition people into your one-on-one voice studio. And then of course there's all the free shit that all the free shit that I do. So my blog is, man, I mean, my blog, I would highly recommend people joining my email list, newsletter. You know, Shannon, you and I have talked about this too, but, and I'm going to tell this for anyone listening on the flip side, is that I very much consider my newsletter a product. I don't consider it a marketing tool. It is a marketing tool. I use it as a marketing tool, but the level of attention that I give to it, it is a product. It is high level. And because I hate low level email lists. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So we can drop the list for the link for the landing page for that as well. And then Facebook, Instagram, all over. Those are your free options for now.
And I did do a post yesterday with like some of the stuff that you've done on YouTube, that's on YouTube, available on YouTube, and some podcasts as well. So that's out there too, just so you know.
That's right. The YouTubes, like the Dan Robinson stuff, like the interviews I've done, or how I just spit my
interviews. Okay, cool. Interviews you've done,
Got it. Cool. Yeah, that's really fun too. So also, if you have a podcast, I really like being on podcasts.
Yes.
So come
It's a good podcast.
Especially if you have a baby podcast. Like if you're new and you're trying to grow and you're trying to do something fun, let me know.
Yeah.
I want to help you.
100%.
If I would be helpful. Obnoxious. I want to help you.
It's all good. Completely. Michelle, this was fantastic. I so appreciate you being here so much. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Thank you for having me. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Now that I have the tech figured out. Sort of. Anyway, all good. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Bye.